In this video, we're going to learn how to connect the top to the JackBord. For more information, go to jb.works and enter the TMT code shown on the screen at the search prompt. For this video, you're going to need a charged JackBord, JackBord top, and some short female-to-female jumper wires. Now, as most of you will be aware, anything electronic needs power, and the top is no exception. And also it's called a top because it sits on top of the JackBord. And I mean, ultimately you could turn it into a game controller if you wanted to, but for now we'll just focus on the power. So to make things easier, I'm going to use a green wire for the ground line. I'm going to use a yellow jumper wire for the 3-volt line and a red jumper wire for the 5-volt line. So your green or ground connections are these guys here and along the top. The 3-volt lines are these ones here, here, and then this one here. And likewise, the 5-volt red ones are here, here, and then this one here. So first of all, you place the top on the JackBord so that the buttons are near port D on the JackBord. And we'll start off with the ground wire, which is green, and we're going to connect it to this first ground pin on the power supply pins for the JackBord, or for the top rather, right here. And then that goes to the green ground pin on port D, like this. Okay? And then next, we'll take the 3-volt line and connect it to the 3-volt pin on the power points on the top, and then to the 3-volt line on the JackBord at port D. There's a 3 there. And finally, we take the red jumper wire and go from the 5-volt line on the top down to the 5-volt line on the JackBord. So these are the connections. When I turn the JackBord on, if we've done everything correctly, we should see the red LED and the yellow LED light up, which they have. So the red one is telling me that the top is getting 5 volts, and the yellow one is telling me that the top is getting 3 volts. So now we have a powered up top and we're ready to go. Check your connections against these pictures. Another thing to keep in mind is that on some of the JackBords, the 5, 3 and green pins are on the right hand side. It doesn't really matter which side they're on. The main thing is that from the top, the ground pin goes to the corresponding ground pin on port D. Likewise, the 3 volts goes to the 3-volt pin, and the 5 volts goes to the 5-volt pin. If you follow that, you're fine. In this view, we see the connections looking up from the bottom of the JackBord towards port D. And again, note that in this particular JackBord, and most of the newer ones, the 5 volts, 3-volt and ground pins are on the left-hand side. On some of the older JackBords, they are located on the right-hand side. It doesn't really matter. The main thing is that your ground pin from the top goes to the ground pin on port D, the 3-volt line from the top goes to the 3-volt line on port D, and likewise the 5 volts from the top goes to the 5 volts on port D. In the next video, we're going to make our first simple circuit using the top.